Alright lads, so Lostbelt 6 Part 2 is going to be releasing next week, and the difficulty does get a little bit higher than Part 1. Granted, Part 1 didn't really have a whole lot of bosses. There's really just the boss at the end. Won't spoil it just in case you haven't made it that far, but you need to catch up because, again, Part 2 is dropping next week. But the difficulty spike is notable here. There are actual bosses that you're going to encounter. I don't think any of them are unbeatable as long as you go in with a game plan. Now, I, for one, will sometimes mess up, especially when I was playing this on JP, and accidentally go in with, say, a farming setup. These aren't really the boss fights that you can really mess up and get away with stuff like that. You do need to kind of go in with a plan and an idea, but once you do have said plan and said idea, these aren't all that difficult to take down. So I'm going to give you guys a rundown of the bosses that you're going to be encountering in Lostbelt 6 Part 2 and kind of give you some advice on how you can actually take them down. Now, the one that's going to be more difficult is when Part 3 comes out, but we don't got to worry about that for another month, maybe month and a half at most for that to actually come out. But before we actually start getting into this, make sure to leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel for that sweet daily FGO content. Also, if you want to see me play FGO live, I do that every weekday starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you click that Twitch link down in the description down below. But let's go ahead and start diving right into this. Now, there are some fights like this one, this Bargus fight over here, where it's like kind of the first real time you get to fight her, that I didn't know if I should really cover because it's technically like, yeah, one of the first boss fights that you're going to be encountering over here, but I don't really think it's all that difficult. But I do think it's at least kind of notable to bring up because of this right here. This is almost meant to prepare you for some of the Morgan boss battles that you're going to get later on in the Lostbelt. This idea that you're going to be fighting someone that is super effective against all of your guys, but is also taking neutral damage. Well, she's not taking neutral because she's still considered a saber, so you could still mow her down with, say, berserkers and archers, which is why I say it's kind of like the dry run for some of those Morgan boss battles to kind of prepare you for that, because you'll see right here that even though she still has like the special resistance, they also gave her the special resistance down over here to kind of cancel it out. And the effects that she's doing over here aren't really all that unbeatable, right? You got to keep in mind that some of Bargus's actual skills, right, how they translate to her being an enemy, like she'll have like an NP charge thing over here, and that might be a little bit annoying, or she might get a little bit tanky, but it's not like she has a super annoying kit to fight as a boss. You're gonna just kind of run in there and just smack up Bargus as hard as you can, because again, you could still bring any of your archers, and thankfully there is one archer that if you're like me, you're gonna crack her out against this lady over here, and you're gonna be able to take her out, or you could take advantage of some of her other traits that she's got going on, right? If you pulled Morgan, then you could bring Morgan to this, and she'll be very good, because Morgan doesn't care that she's getting Berserker special advantage for this fight, because she was already going to take double damage anyway. So you could bring her and she'll do very well in here. Unfortunately, the earth attribute thing, there's not really a whole lot of people that we have yet that could take advantage of this, because all of these servants don't exist, and I do not believe that Ereshkigal over here has gotten her NP upgrade. I believe we're still like a couple of months away from that. And so we really don't have a whole lot of people that could take advantage of being able to exploit the earth attribute. But that's okay, because she does have some other things like her chaotic trait where you can use Beni Enma to fully exploit that. Beni Enma does have a pretty solid kit for boss killing, I would say. Good for looping. You know, she can kind of get her NP numerous times back to back if you're getting some pretty decent RNG. I've found survivability and a little bit of party utility as well. You can use her and you should be able to kind of mop up Bargus fairly easily. There's also the good attribute over here, which you really can't take advantage of, except we just got MHX Alter's buff, which is really, really nice. I've been saying that MHX Alter is really good at mopping up these people, and dog, she's going to be able to absolutely destroy this Bargus. Now, because she changes to Berserker, I'm not actually sure if she fully gets to take advantage of the Saber special damage mod and the good attribute, but it still should be fine because MHX Alter is going to absolutely mop up this Bargus. I believe you still should be able to get the damage mod because her class itself will still be Saber. It'll just switch the affinity, but someone in the comments below could definitely correct me on that, because even if you don't, you'll still be able to absolutely mop up Bargus over here with someone like MHX Alter. But this is just kind of like the first main fight. A little annoying things are like that she might taunt one of your guys, and you could be like, oh man, I wanted to keep my Castoria around, or I'm doing the MHX Alter thing, and she taunted one of my Scotties that I needed that. You know, you could have little annoying things like that, but I think the most hilarious thing is that she gives herself threat against humanity, and they force you to bring bring a Castoria. And what is Castoria's third skill? It's a special damage mod against exactly that. So if you kind of want to take advantage of this forced Castoria that you're going to have to use, and I mean, it's a forced NP4 Castoria, although I believe the skills are still going to be 888, which is a little bit annoying. So don't, try to plan for being able to do like a 50-50 thing with the NP, because you're going to end up with like 40-35% because she's not skill level 10. But still, if you want to take advantage of that, maybe do use one of the art servants. Again, someone like Benny Enma is really good if you do actually have her. But realistically, any of your archers should be able to get the job done if you've got a decent enough setup. She is kind of a little bit of a thickie. Again, she does have some of the healing buffs. She has the damage cut, but I don't think either of those are going to be that significant that it's going to prevent you from winning the fight. So this is the first main boss of Lostbelt 6. I kind of see this as the greeting for us kind of coming in here for part 2 and kind of getting ready. And I do like that they do provide this battle as kind of like a warm-up for the Morgan one, but that's not the next fight that we're going to be talking about. The next fight we have that's kind of a big one is, I think, actually the first difficult fight in all of Lostbelt 6. I kind of think this is where you start to feel that, oh, okay, this fight is actually a little bit difficult, because you do have to bring Percival in your party, and you're going to want him because he's going to remove this buff by firing his own NP. And this is kind of like the baby Demeter skill, right? Where he doesn't have like the mad huge defense, but he does still get like little heals every turn, and that can be kind of annoying. For this guy, you really do need to bring a team with a lot of sustainability, because you're going to be in here for a long time. Even though if you're like, oh, I could just come in here, break all 4 break bars, 4 straight NPs back to back to back, Melusine will come out around here, and you have NP5 Melusine, and she just keeps punching him. Well, the problem with that is that he's also got the guts down here, so he's going to force the fight to be longer whether you like it or not. And he's going to be blasting you with a lot of NPs, because the little NP gauge thing that the bosses have, where they get each tick at the end of every turn, and then they start firing their NPs, he's just going to get reduced down to 2 ticks, and then that's the part of the battle where he's going to force you to kind of sit in there, because he's going to have the guts. And so that can be very, very annoying, because you could just be getting blasted by a lot of NPs, and that's just no fun, right? Like, no one likes to be getting blasted by NPs, especially like every other turn, basically. Thankfully, it's not like he has the most broken skills, I would assume. This I do recall being very annoying when I did this on the JP version of the game, because I just did not like getting charmed and stunned all the time. This can be a little bit annoying, but stuff like this where it's like, oh my goodness, he's gonna give himself big attack and he's gonna lower my defense. But the guy could do like really good crits anyway, because it's one of the first buffs that he actually gets. So it's like, you were probably gonna get crit once and died anyway, right? So it's like, oh my goodness, he's gonna crit me for 50k instead of 30k. It's like, well, you are still probably gonna die to the 30k crit. So like, that's why I don't consider these like that big of a deal, because you were probably going to get blasted anyway. Your servant was going to die regardless. It's just going to be death by a bigger number. The one really good thing about, say, Woodwose is that you can kind of control his NP and like who he targets with the spam, because he is at least single target. If he was AoE, this would just be absolutely ridiculous, just spamming you with NPs all over the place. I could see that being very annoying, but you can kind of control or reduce your losses because he is single target. He's not going to be completely wiping out your team every time he fires an NP. There is a silver lining, though, that some of you guys may have noticed. These are the only 2 buffs that he's going to give himself that are permanent, and you get to remove this one with Percival's NP. These are actually removable buffs, so if you don't want to deal with any of these, and as you can see right here, I pulled up the Woodwose fight from JP, and you can see that none of these are the unremovable buffs where, they have the black boxes around them and then you can't buff remove them. So if you have somebody that you want to use to remove these said buffs, you could do that to try to make your life a little bit easier. Also, there is still the fact that you can just bring a normal support if you want to, because the Percival is forced to be a support, but as you can also see, you're allowed to bring a friend support still. So it's not quite as annoying as, say, like the full Demeter boss where you have to bring Canis, and it doesn't let you bring another friend support, and she's got the big defense, and she's got the healing. He's kind of like more of an offensive version of her, where if you kind of leave this to be unchecked, because I don't know, you want to make the fight a little bit harder for yourself, no idea, but if you wanted to do something like that, I don't know, it's still a little bit more manageable, because he's more of like an offensive version of that Demeter. But yeah, this is probably going to be the first one that gives a little bit of trouble to some people, but I don't see it being that undoable, because I think it's fair enough. Like, I think he does a lot of very strong things, but there's also a lot of interplay that you could do with him because, for instance, all of these are removable, right? Very strong, like making him a huge crit guy with a reduced gauge is super OP, but you could at least remove these over here, right? So you don't have to deal with the massive critical hits and everything. If you have someone like, say, Amakusa, you could break him out for that. So that can be very good. Or, say, Kiara. Kiara would also work really good for this. Then again, you might want to have a higher NP Kiara. You might want to make sure you do that because using an AoE NP1 Kiara versus a single target boss may be a little annoying, but, you know, maybe I'll try it for fun when he actually comes out. But the next one I had was just kind of a little bit of a fair warning. There are like Avenger enemies in here, and this is like some big purple dragon guy. You know, the weird like Moore's enemy guys, I believe they're called, those purple new enemy types we got for this. But yeah, this one I kind of just brought up because these enemies actually do have some effects, right? They have the guts over here, and there's a condition that if your Fae Lancelot is defeated, you will lose. But this is an NP5 Melusine that you get to bring, and Melusine, I don't know if you guys know, is pretty dang broken. Like, I'll do a video on her next week when she actually comes out, but she's really, really good. I think her being defeated shouldn't be all that big of an issue because Melusine is going to be NPing unironically like 5, 6, 7 times in a row. You can't do double Castoria stuff, but dude, if you just bring someone to support Melusine, she will rip and tear these guys apart. She is more than fine at being able to deal with these guys. Just be careful because this guy over here does have a damage mod against Faes, and obviously name speaks for itself, but Fae Knight Lancelot, go figure, is a Fae. So make sure you do at least kind of protect her like that. But you also do get a Castoria. Can't bring a dupe one, but this one's 105. I guess that's kind of nice. And they're NP5, which means you're going to be getting a massive 50% attack buff for 3 turns. So that can be very, very nice. But just kind of wanted to bring this one up because I was like, this one might catch 1 to 2 people off guard, and they might be like, why did I lose? Because my Fae Lancelot got obliterated. I was like, let me just give them a bit of a heads up on this one. Let me make sure they're at least prepared for that one. And then we come down here. No, yeah, that one. This is just like an Arthur fight. I was thinking about talking about this one, but I don't think it's all that difficult because similar to Bargus, like if you were able to get through that fight, I imagine you could beat Arthur over here. Arthur also, in my opinion, just has easier people that can actually beat him and take him down. Well, I mean, it's kind of some of the same people, right? Earth attribute has the good thing. He's lawful instead, still weak to Enema Relish, so if you have Gilgamesh, you could take him out. Look, weak to King, you could bring Scheherazade or maybe Muramasa. You could have a lot of fun that way. You could bring Siegfried to beat him up because he's a dragon. You know, that could be kind of fun. He's got a lot going for him to be able to just be kind of doable. You could beat him up. Look, he's also a round table knight. If you pulled for Morgan like your boy did, you could just bring her and absolutely trash this guy. So yeah, I brought it up here because I was like, well, it is technically a boss fight, but like he's just gonna kind of hit you pretty hard. And if you got through Bargus, you can get through this guy because Bargus is definitely way more unfair because she's a berserker. She's super effective against everybody while also only retaining saber weakness. So it's like a way better berserker. It's like all the strength with barely any of the downside. So yeah, it's like that could have been a little bit annoying, but you know, you just take this guy out. They don't even have a break bar. This guy becomes way more doable. Just get in there and mop him up. Not all that difficult. There is a Bawabon Sith fight that, again, I did pull up, but again, this is like way easier, more manageable Bargus because Bargus has a whole lot going for her. I guess, okay, Sith, with some of her skills can be a little annoying with like the double survivability over here. So if you're using someone with sure hit, they can't get past this, right? It's like really trying to make sure she protects herself. You want to pierce Invul person, which thankfully there is the Altera CE that is free for the mana, free quote unquote. You can get it through the Mana Prism shop if you happen to have that, but I do believe you have to unlock it with Rare Prism, so I don't know how free that is. But if you do have it, starts you all with 50% and gives you Pierce Invincibility, or any other CE you might have could be good because Sith does kind of like to activate the skill just a little bit. But I guess this could be really annoying because not only does this charge one of her ticks for her, but it's also going to pretty much lock you down for a turn, and that might be a little bit annoying. But thankfully, because she's a boss, her heals aren't really going to be all that impactful because getting 3k back from, you know, 368k doesn't really make a difference. So it's kind of like just same thing. Just bring a good Lancer, bring a good Zerk, optional, bring someone that can just take out females. I'm sure you could do this with Jack because this is a very simple boss fight, right? It's like, oh no, not the curses. When I have a, you know, Castoria over here that can actually clear all my debuffs and everything. So it's like, oh no, not the debuff servant being countered by the anti-debuff servant. So I think Sith over here is not all that difficult. There's a giant wolf thing over here that's, again, I was going to talk about, but it's just a break bar giant caster. Bring literally just some strong rider slash berserker and you'll be able to get that guy done. Then we come down here and I believe it's Morgan. Yeah, so Morgan's where things start to get a little bit annoying because there are two Morgan fights. There's this first initial one and then the one that everybody has seen where you have to fight the triple Morgans over here. And I mean, this one you don't technically have to do, right? Because as you can see at the very bottom over here, you're supposed to lose this fight, spoiler alert. But if you want to take it on, this thing is so annoying to do to try to like see how far you can get in this. If you want to like get some hair on your chest as an FGO player, you could try to see how far you can go into this fight. But man, it is just like ridiculous. I remember playing this on JP thinking you had to win, just being so frustrated because I was like, dude, I cannot beat these women. They are destroying me. So let me just say, for funsies, you could try to get as far as you can, but if you really want to, you could just bring a really weak team and just let yourself get obliterated because you don't technically have to participate in it, right? You do not have to entertain this fight if you don't want to, but it can be very, very fun if you would like. But so then this is just the main Morgan boss battle. And the main thing that I was kind of talking about earlier, where Bargus kind of prepares you for this battle over here, it's Morgan's like type advantage and how everything works, because she removes like the class-based disadvantage and she's neutral to everything, which can be very annoying, right? Because she's still a berserker. She's still going to hit you very, very hard, but for none of the drawbacks, right? People that are foreigners for this fight can be really good just to kind of cut down on some of the damage that Morgan is able to throw their way. But the other thing that I think makes Morgan really kind of annoying to fight is there's not a whole lot of good people to take advantage of some of the traits that she's got, right? Like you have Faye, which your Morgan could be good for that, but because she's not going to take super effective damage from your Morgan anymore, you're not really going to be doing a whole lot of damage, right? She's going to be very tanky. You don't really have super great options for King because they're both, again, AoE guys, not exactly boss killing people, because when you have to fight a neutral boss, generally you're like, okay, let me try to bring damage mod people to kind of make up for the lack of super effectiveness. But even with like weak to Enema Elish, because she's not weak to archers anymore, the massive damage you normally get with Gilgamesh is going to be feeling a lot worse, right? And it's just like, she just feels really annoying to fight. And as I mentioned with Bargus, or for like the Earth attribute people, there's just not a whole lot of super great people to bring into this. And I mean, it's also the fact that the people that beat lawful and evil are either people that are good but aren't out yet, or the people we do have just aren't super great. Because I mean, like, you don't exactly have the greatest roster for people to bring down lawful dudes, because most of these people are AoE and you probably don't want to bring them to this fight. And evil is not looking much better. I mean, you have Benny Enma, who thankfully, if you want to take advantage of damage mods, she's really good. But Morgan is just one of those real tough cookies that just does not have a lot of people that beat her traits, because she doesn't have a whole lot of traits for one. Some of these traits don't even do anything, right? Like costume owning, there's nobody that's super effective against costume owning. At least to my knowledge. Maybe they're going to release somebody for Ordeal Call that's super effective against costume owning. That'd be really funny. But Earth, the people that we have right now just aren't really the best at taking out, and they're not like conducive to taking out someone like Morgan. And then it's just also her skills, man. Like the fact that you're going to be taking even more damage on top of this, and she's buffing her attack, and she has guts on top of being really tanky, and she's going to make you do like absolutely no damage. She can just be annoying. I mean, there's also the fact, dude, she has 2 skills that proc her NP as well, and she's on an AoE Berserker NP. She is just like kind of an actual issue because she's really thick and really tanky and she does a lot of damage, right? So that can be very, very annoying. And then like she even removes her own debuffs from herself, and then you can't do anything against this. So it's like Morgan definitely, as the Lostbelt king for this, definitely feels like she's earning that title because she is just very, very strong. You just need to go in here with a strong team. bring whoever like your best DPS is. I believe when I did this on JP, it was right after I got Melusine and I used her to beat this battle, and I just went in with kind of like an arts team setup, the best that I could get. Because to be fair, this Castoria is not bad. 120 means that she's going to be very thick, and you know, if you can get a crit off one of these Castoria cards, it might actually do a smidge of damage. Not a whole lot, but dude, you're level 120, your stats are just naturally high. The NP5 NP is going to be very, very powerful as well, because of the fact that that is, again, giving you 50% attack for 3 turns, and you're going to need everything you can to really kind of cut through Morgan's HP. People that have Black Gray will have an easier time with this, I feel, because you can kind of just inject that steroid into you, just go right in here and just try to beat her up. But very similarly to, say, Woodwose, she's kind of just a strong opponent to fight, but unlike Woodwose, a lot of these things that she's giving herself are now permanent, right? So I kind of see the 3 main fights, why I kind of spent the most time on them: Bargus, Woodwose, and then Morgan. They kind of all slowly lead you up to this fight, right? Like, Woodwose has a lot of very strong effects and is doing similar things. Like, instead of getting NP ticks every single turn, she has 2 skills that charge her NP and then, you know, kind of speed up how fast she gets to it. But all of her things you can't interact with. You kind of just have to learn to deal with it, which is also why you may want to do the Woodwose fight once without doing buff removal stuff if you can, to kind of get a grasp on how to manage that opponent. She's also a little more difficult, I think, in escalation because she's an AoE berserker as opposed to him being a spammy single target caster. But these are not impossible. I think if you do just kind of look at your box, find your best DPS person, just someone that you know can consistently put out very good numbers, or that they're just able to try to knock Morgan down in 3 NPs. If you've got, like, say, a very strong, I don't know, Skahawk or something, right? If you're like, man, my Skahawk's NP3, I'm going to run in here Black Gray, I'm just going to nuke Morgan, that might actually be able to work, right? You may just be able to go in there and nuke her, but she's definitely very, very tough, right? But not impossible. I think the part 2 bosses are definitely the skill curve that kind of comes around, but they're not these insane bosses that you need to use your blue cubes for. Those are going to be the bosses for part 3, where thing actually kind of hits the fan. But we'll talk about that more when that actually comes out. I'll do some more boss guides for this. If you guys really do need help, I might upload some, you know, runs of me actually beating these guys, maybe with some different teams, if that would help you guys out. I can do stuff like that. Leave that in the comments down below, because I'm not opposed to like double uploading when this stuff comes out, to be like, all right, here's like 3 different ways of beating up Morgan with some different guys. I can't give you guys a free to play setup. I'm not going to sit there for 18,000 years. Okay? I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit there and wait for Ku to stab Morgan 85 times and bring her down. But I can try to give you guys a couple different setups and show you how to do some of these fights. Or you could come out to my stream where I'll be doing that live. Again, a shameless plug for that in the description down below. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I will catch you guys on the flippity floppity.